Hey everyone, my name is Joel from Dissecting DIY, and I am going to be reviewing my experience and the app for the Smart Oil Gauge from Connected Consumer. I've been using this for about a month now. I have had some things crop up that I was able to get answers to from both my oil company and Smart Oil Gauge directly. And other than that, it's been a very positive experience, and I've learned some things about the product that I'm going to share with you, as well as my review of the app. So first, let's do the app. So here we have, what the screen that I just came from is where your tank is basically in the cloud. So you can add more than one tank, you can have more than one sensor, and adding it is pretty easy. Now you're going to see this notification come up. It's going to connect to whatever network you are currently connected to. So if you have extenders in your home, if you have a way to multiple networks like I do, or multiple bandwidths like this is, I'm on a 5 gigahertz network right now, but it prefers 2.4 gigahertz, and that's for the best 2.4 gigahertz band. The bandwidth of that range is a lot longer, meaning that it can go a lot longer, and you're only dealing with a couple kilobytes of data, so you don't really need the high bandwidth. Now you're probably going to wonder, what do I do if I change my network? What if I update a router? That's really easy. You're just going to go through the same process as if you had never configured it at all, and once you have gotten that done, you're going to commit, and it's going to ask you, are you updating your network settings, or is this a new setup? And that's really smart. That's well thought out. But it's not very apparent, and it's just the way I was able to find that out is I actually updated my network, and I just was like, well, I don't have any other option. I'm going to do it this way, and it was so easy, so seamless that they really thought that out. So this is your oil tank level. And this is just a visual of what the sensor's reading, where it's at. It's actually pretty on par with the other float that I have on my tank. So this one is actually a little bit off, but you actually just go from the top of the float, not the bottom of the float, and that's actually where I've noticed its accuracy is. Now let's go into the graph. So here you can see last night's usage from about 12 a.m. Now you're going to see that it pops up to about 1.1 gallons. It goes up, and there is a reason for that. This sensor is actually really sensitive, and the company Smart Oil Gauge is aware of this. But it's shooting a sound wave down and bouncing back. So why would my tank go up a whole gallon? Well, after talking to both my oil company and Smart Oil Gauge, their information that they gave me was almost identical, which, so I'm making sure that the sources are, that I'm not just getting fed a line. And essentially, the industry standard for a 275-gallon tank or, 330-gallon tank, they don't fill them up all the way. So a 270-gallon tank, they will fill to about 240 gallons. The Smart Oil Gauge, once I filled, I noticed it said 235 and then a greater than sign. That's saying that I have more than 235 gallons, and it's not really going to give me a read until it gets below that. That's not a big deal, but the oil industry, or not the oil industry, my oil company that I use, they actually sent a new guy out, and he delivered 270 gallons. Or he added to the point that my tank level was at 270 gallons, which he admitted at the time, said, I heard the whistle, and I think I put a little bit more. So you might have a little bit more floating around in your tank. Not a big deal for me. The fuller my tank is, the happier I am. But it did get me thinking, about this sensor, and, you're going to see over the month that I keep getting my tank replenished. That's because it's dealing with the fact that this is greater than the 240-gallon standard, and the fact that the sensor is tracking a change, but because it has that algorithm in there that that says that after 240 gallons, we're just going to give you this, 235 plus. So it's tracking usage. So it's not that it isn't accurate, it's that it has tracked the usage, but then it says, well, we're still more than 240, so it shoots back up. Now I have gotten into, you can see that replenishment on the graph that I'm actually have negative usage, but you can also see on the level there that it's because the tank's being replenished. That being said, I have fallen back into the normal range as of today, and that 1.1 gallon that was replenished is because the fuel is expanding. And this is what my fuel company told me is the reason that they leave that extra space is because your fuel can expand and contract based on the temperature of the room. So at night, it does get cold in my boiler room, and I have a lot of things insulated, but as it has to heat up my house throughout the night, which you see at usage, you can see around the same time my usage is going up, meaning the zones are being constantly heated to keep the house warm. It got pretty cold last night. That being said, it tracked that change in oil level, and it's just really accurate. I actually saw on my manual gauge it went up as well. So that's how sensitive the sensor is. And I did talk to Smart Oil Gauge about it. They said they are aware of that happening, and they are working on ways, because the only problem that this really gets into is tracking. How do you track your usage if your oil readings are jumping around? And this isn't the fault of the oil company. It isn't the fault of Smart Oil Gauge. It's just the way expansion and contraction works. So that being said, I'm hoping that like this screen here will eventually get maybe a little tally in the upper right that says you used so many gallons in a 24-hour period, then when you go to week, in a 7-day period, and it just tallies it up for you, as opposed to having to hit the data points and track it, kind of with a pen and paper. But other than that, it's really good. So now we're going to go into configuration. So configuration, you see that where my tank is. Upload interval, that's done in hours. So you can go as high as 24 hours or as low as 1 hour. I recommend the 5, and they said that the battery level at 5 will last. They've had their products in their homes, and it's been about a year and a half, and the battery is still going strong. They do use a special type of battery, so if you do have to replace them, you're going to have to get a special type of battery, and they are available on Amazon. Just use the correct brand name. It's Saft, and it's an LS14500 3.6 lithium battery. And that's I think I already said it, but it's a 3.6 volt. So you're going to need those batteries. If you have tanks that you want to go in the setup, say that you have no open 2-inch port, you have to use the 1.5. There is an adapter, and that's going to create an offset. It's about an inch and a half above the tank. So you just go into advanced, set up your offset, and all of this goes to a cloud. So once you set this, it's going to go to their cloud where they can manage the settings, or basically the settings can be managed where you don't necessarily have to be at the device to make the change, which is another great feature. They can do firmware updates this way. They can, check in on the sensor this way and make sure that you're a happy customer. And I've really had a great experience with them in terms of responsiveness. So whenever I've had an issue, I've messaged them on Facebook, and they get right back to me, and they answer all my questions. I did just call them this morning, and they were answering more of my questions, and they're just a really enjoyable company to deal with. So I do recommend this product, despite some of the little hiccups that they've had, but that it really isn't a big deal when you look at what I was faced with in terms of an overfill. And they were like, yep, that sounds like what it is. And of course we were able to confirm it. I was able to double check with my oil company, and they said, yeah, we overfilled the tank. We had a new guy, and they apologized. So not a big deal. But let's get back into tanks. You're going to see you can go up to 330 horizontal setups, and of course the Roth tank is going to require that you get an adapter straight away. So you're going to have to set your offsets for that as well. Can put your address information, notifications. I'm not going to click on notifications because it has my email address once I open it up to where it's going to. You can get notifications like tank fill up, tank levels once they hit a certain threshold, an eighth, a fourth. If you have high usage, it's going to let you know. And those are all things that I just really like. So in recap, I really like this product. There are some of those tracking issues that they are aware of. They're working on, fixing. The only thing I could say to that, if they do kind of figure something out, I want to know when my oil level is jumping like that. And if they could just have something that toggles where it tracks those changes, or it negates those changes in a way to toggle that on and off. So basically, if you don't want to see those changes, you just want to make sure that you're getting usage over time for a more accurate read at the end of the year of how much you're actually using. Other than that, again, I really like the product. I recommend it. I've had a good experience with the product itself, and I've had a great experience with the company and their customer service in terms of answering my questions and making sure that I'm happy with the product. So that is my review of the app of the Smart Oil Gauge from Connected Consumer. And I'm Joel from Discipline DIY. You have a great day.